Hi, my name's Phil and I like talking about politics, and the planned video for today will be postponed until tomorrow because, well, like Theresa May, I'm going to delay something at the last minute. But it's also in regards to Theresa May that I'm doing this. This is actually something I'm quite excited by on an intellectual level. The consequences of what I'm thinking of are appalling for the country, but it's fascinating in spite of that. And what I don't understand is why no article that I've read on this particular topic is exploring these possibilities. But anyway, enough build up, let's get on with it. Basically, Theresa May seems to have revealed a cunning plan for Brexit. And I know what it is. I just don't know which one it is. An odd statement, but it'll make sense by the end of the video. So what's this story about? Basically, the news blew up about one of the government's top aides. The UK chief negotiator, Ollie Robbins, was overheard in a bar talking about Theresa May's plans to get her deal through or extend. In other words, it's either her deal or extend. He is basically saying that she is not going to allow no deal to happen. Now, this comes as a little bit of a surprise. But what we already know, of course, is we can't just unilaterally extend Article 50. She can't just be thinking to herself, oh, right, we'll get it to the last minute, put my deal on the table, Parliament rejects it, oh no, I'll extend it. Of course you can't just do that, the EU have to agree as well. But here's the thing, she's been meeting with the EU leaders a lot recently. Not to talk about the backstop, don't fool yourself, she's talking about the backstop. She knows as well as everyone else that the backstop can't be changed. You can't put a time limit on it, we've already discussed this before. So she was talking to those EU leaders about something else. What? Well, let's just say she was in the mind to extend if Parliament finally rejected her deal, let's say late March. She's going to need the EU on board with that. So let's say she was talking about this potential eventuality secretly behind closed doors. Of course, these conversations have been happening anyway. And she's been trying to ascertain the conditions that would be needed in order to get an extension and how long that extension would be for and all the rest of it. Now, if that were the case, then Ollie Robbins is absolutely the man who would need to be involved in those negotiations because he is our top official when it comes to Brexit negotiations. So that sort of makes sense. Now, I know what you might be thinking here. You'll be saying, well, this is speculation. Of course it is. And I'm basing all this on the idea that Theresa May would say opposite things to different people, that she's massively two-faced even by the standards of politicians. Yes, I am. And she's got form on this as well. She's done it before. I'm going to give you a couple of solid examples. So, when her Brexit deal was voted down by the record 230 MP margin, what she started to do was to invite some opposition MPs to talk to her privately, as well as her own MPs, backbenchers, of course, things like that. Now, what it's emerged as, she was saying to Labour MPs, for example, when they were talking about the customs union, and she was sounding very friendly about it, very open about it. Oh, yeah, without committing herself, saying, oh, yeah, this is the sort of thing, we could be thinking about. Yeah, it would solve the border issues. There's scope in this. But when she talked to Conservative MPs, it was all very much, no, we're not having a customs union. No, not a chance. But the thing is, behind closed doors, you might sort of imagine she was trying to say one thing to one group of people, make out that she's sort of on their side, and another thing to another group of people, same sort of thing, offering mutually exclusive things. But those MPs talk to each other. You've got to remember, just because they're in opposite parties doesn't mean to say they don't talk to each other. They actually do their work. They're effectively colleagues. MPs don't just troll along to the debating chamber, listen to a load of waffle for a few hours and then vote on something. They have committees that they join. And those committees have MPs from different parties in them. They work together, they talk together, they get to know each other socially as well. So they tell each other what's going on. These MPs know, the Labour MPs know what she's been saying to the Conservative MPs, and the Conservative MPs knows what she's been saying to the Labour MPs. I mean, that's how I know, because they've been talking to journalists about it as well. So we know that she's well up for telling one group of people one thing and one another. Now, that sort of thing you'd think, well, it's fairly par for the course for politicians. Oh, yes. But there was a bigger one. A few years ago when she was Home Secretary, she basically opted out of a load of EU rules on justice and home affairs. What's this I hear you say? But hang on a minute. All the leavers say that we have to follow all the EU rules like slaves, that we're not sovereign. Yeah, that's a load of rubbish. 4 years ago, Theresa May, as Home Secretary, was pulling us out of 135 EU rules on justice and home affairs, basically. And very much because of pressure from the ERG. We know a lot more about them now, but they were a very powerful lobby group within the Conservative Party even then. And she was going along with it. She was going, oh yeah, and she was making speeches with that sort of rhetoric. Oh yeah, these rules are not good for the UK. The UK needs to drop these rules right now, including, she's going to opt out of these 135 rules, including the European arrest warrant scheme. But hang on a minute, I hear you say. We're in the European arrest warrant scheme now, so she can't have opted out of it. No, that's the cunning thing, you see. Right at the last minute, she did opt out of it. She opted out of 135 EU rules, as is our right as a sovereign nation. We shouldn't do it. It's not, it's not really plain fair, but we did it. But what she did at the very last minute, she opted back into about a quarter of them, 35 of those rules. Much to the fury of the ERG, it included, because it was all the big ones as well, never mind the quantity, never mind, oh, well, she opted out of 100 out of 135. No, the big ones, the ones that the ERG were dead set against, were the ones she opted back into, the real beefy ones. They tried to frustrate that. They actually, and this is important for later as well, worked with Labour to try and force a vote against the government, against their own party, to try and overturn this. They lost narrowly, but they did lose. But again, working with Labour to try and do that. Now, what it meant was they couldn't really make a wider argument that Theresa May had screwed them over. Because Theresa May says to the public, I have opted out of 100 EU rules on justice and home affairs that aren't good for the country. And that's all there is to it, because it's no good the ERG trying to say to people, but she didn't opt out of this or this or this, because most people don't even know what those rules are. A lot of people that would approve of it just know, oh, EU rules bad, opting out of 100 EU rules good, and that's the end of it. So they know now, in terms of what was learnt there, the ERG knows that she will say one thing to them all the way to the last minute and then screw them over. But she also knows that the ERG will absolutely work against their own party to get what they want. And this is, another game of brinkmanship on much higher stakes with Brexit, of course. So, although May's actions at the moment do indeed look like she's just running down the clock in order to get either her deal or no deal through, I have cautioned against that sort of thinking, because of a few things. One, Theresa May does not want no deal Brexit, despite what may seem apparent. She personally does not want that. The other thing we know is that she has screwed over the far right of her party before. And the third thing, we also know that she will happily say whatever she thinks her audience want to hear to keep them on board. And she will, she will offer mutually exclusive outcomes to different groups. So we know that. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we can be confident that May will seek to extend Article 50 if MPs don't pass her deal before it's too late. I'm just saying that her past political dealings suggest that what the chief negotiator is saying rings true. So is it as simple as that? Are we definitely saying that we've ruled out no deal because of this revelation? We've basically discovered a plan of hers and we'll end up really extending it. It certainly seems so, but that's actually not what I'm saying, because there is another side to this. And here is the maddening thing about this whole issue. As much as that is really plausible and it makes sense and it rings true, the reverse could be equally true. But she doesn't want no deal, and her own chief negotiator was overheard talking about an extension. Yes, but there's another side to this. If she pulls this off, if she does that, the ERG will be livid, absolutely livid. There'll be nothing they can do about it, but they will be furious. And it does genuinely risk splitting the Conservative Party. People close to the Prime Minister say that she is likely to always put party before everything, country included. And her actions so far have also suggested that as well. It's entirely possible that despite her own beliefs on the damage that no deal would do to the country, she is prepared to accept no deal in order to keep her party together. Now, what about the Remain MPs? Won't they rebel? Well, the other thing is it's been reported by sources close to government that if the Remain MPs were as obnoxious as the Leave MPs, then actually the Prime Minister would have a bit of a quandary, but they're not. Although they're showing dismay every time she moves towards what appears to be a very bad Brexit, they're not threatening to split the party. They're not making any threats at all, so the Prime Minister can ignore them. The ERG are threatening, however. They're threatening to pull the party and the country over the Brexit cliff, basically, in a no deal. And it's not an empty threat because it's something they want. Okay? It's not like they're going into a room with a grenade and saying they're going to threaten to detonate it, which would also finish them off as well. This is what they want. They've also been ramping up their propaganda recently as well. Desperate to get us over the no deal line. So May therefore feels that the only threat to party unity is coming from the ERG, and so would rather dance to their tune than risk the party splitting. The Tory chief whip, for those who don't know who that is the person who's supposed to be in charge of party discipline, making MPs do what the Prime Minister wants them to do. Obviously, he's not been terribly successful of late, but nonetheless, the fact that he's still the Tory chief whip means that he has the confidence of the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister trusts his judgment. He is quoted as saying to Theresa May, and this is a quote, and I apologise for the language, it's not mine. He said, "Your party is fucked if you do anything other than hold strong." So there exists a general belief that the party will not survive if May changes course now. Whether the belief is true or not is irrelevant. If it's really believed, it will impact her actions. So, what about Ollie Robbins again, the chief negotiator, and what he said? Well, what if it's her negotiating team, of which he's the head of it, and the EU leaders that she's stringing along? She could well be telling them to organise an extension should the deal be voted down and permanently fail in Parliament, but actually screwing those over and letting us slide out with no deal. It's even probable that she wanted this information to come out. After all, those opposition MPs who might vote for her deal if it's between that and no deal may actually pass it if it's the last possible moment. But what if they believed that Theresa May was going to extend if the deal failed? Well, those opposition MPs wouldn't mind that. Oh, sure, yeah, we'll keep voting it down and then get an extension. We might be able to even push for a new referendum. Yeah, that suits us down to the ground. Great. But if Theresa May genuinely believes that a no-deal Brexit is the only way to save her party, then she wouldn't actually want MPs voting it through after all. Like at the moment, the strategy appears to be wait till the last minute, make MPs sweat, and then put the deal in front of them and say it's this or no deal. But she doesn't want that because the ERG don't want that. That's assuming that she is putting the party above absolutely everything else. So wouldn't it make sense to give those MPs the confidence to vote it down in the knowledge that what it would actually result in is not no deal, but an extension? Only to then block moves to any other action with just a couple of days to go before the Brexit deal. She could easily put this vote up for the final time 2 days before Brexit. Too late for Parliament to do anything if she's blocking it, other than crash out with everything falling apart from the Conservative Party. The opposition benches and the Remainers would just be stunned at this, and I'm not quite sure how they would feel having been played by Theresa May in this way, but there'd be nothing they could do about it at that point. After all, didn't it seem strange that this very newsworthy comment should have been uttered in a bar where you were bound to have journalists able to overhear it? This isn't a coincidence. A top official simply cannot commit that sort of indiscretion and remain in post. The fact that he still has his job today means it's deliberate. And this is how politicians leak to the media. They do this all the time. You know, when they want to leak something to the media, they make sure a conversation is overheard in a pub where you've got journalists and MPs. You make sure you leave some documents behind somewhere where someone's going to pick them up. That's how it works. Theresa May wants this to come out. Nobody else could have authorised that official to have done what he did, apart from possibly the Brexit secretary. But to be honest, I think he seemed quite tame. Now, I'm not completely discounting the fact that it could have been the Brexit secretary ordering it up to rile up the Eurosceptics, but I do think it's less likely. I think this is Theresa May. And that's why I think all options are genuinely still on the table. We know that Theresa May is saying different things to different people. We know that she strings people along and then changes course at the last second. She's done it before. We also know that she has competing priorities. She doesn't believe that any form of Brexit is good. She certainly doesn't believe a no-deal Brexit is good. At the same time, she might well believe, certainly the ERG are trying to give the very strong impression, that if we get anything other than a no-deal, that they will attempt to split the party. So we know about that. What we don't know is what is the action she's going to take, because she could go down either. All she has to do in the meantime is get enough MPs thinking that she's on their side, keep telling them all in private that she's in favour of their proposals, and Parliament will never get behind a single motion that can derail her plans. That basically means that however Brexit turns out, it will be by her design, not Parliament. It is just possible she's stringing both sides along at the moment because she hasn't even decided who to screw over yet. She doesn't believe no deal will be good for us. So if she sets up a secret agreement for an extension, she has the option of going for it if she decides that the ERG are bluffing, or if she decides the party can survive without them. After all, it's not like the party wouldn't be able to find other candidates to put forward in those constituencies. And also, I mean, a split to the Conservative Party would see more central and left-wing parties in government. So would the far right really split the party? Or, if she still believes her party is in genuine mortal peril at the last moment, she's also given herself the option of allowing us to crash out by letting opposition MPs, believing that they can vote her deal down a final time with impunity. So what I see here, despite what we've thought in terms of the action she's taken, is potentially a spectacular bluff. The only problem, as I say, is I don't know who she's bluffing. It's going to be an interesting wait to find out in the finale of that one, albeit with potentially terrifying consequences. So hopefully that's muddied the waters for you nicely. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you found it interesting, please click the like button, subscribe for further content, and click the bell notification as well. Share with others who might also be interested. Until next time, I'll see you later.